The Big 12 Week 5 Power Rankings edition of the Big 12 Experience on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Sign up with our promo code TCESGPN to score up to $1,000 bonus in cash. Underdog Fantasy promo code TCESGPN. And we're also brought to you by Rhythm. Get your 7-day free trial today by going over to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That is the sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM today. And welcome everybody into the Big 12 College Experience, part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, and we are 1 week into the Big 12 Gauntlet, and man, did the Big 12 not disappoint with some of these instant classic games that ended either on a double-digit point comeback in the last 5 minutes, or a Hail Mary, or a 30-point beatdown upset that nobody really saw coming. But hey, let's get to it here in a little bit. But first off, I am Moneyline Mac, a.k.a. the former video coordinator for Bob Huggins and Frank Martin. We're talking Big 12 football, so we're bringing in this guy because he's always fighting a family civil war, whether in Stillwater, Waco, Fort Worth, Orlando, Cincinnati, all the way to Tucson. He is the Big 12 guru, a.k.a. the green mowing, weed growing, Troy Chewning. What a weekend, man.
Pretty dang good weekend. I mean, not necessarily for me betting wise, 3-5 performance, not too great. 2 locks that one of them didn't even get close. Luckily, I didn't publicly tweet out that I would shove a beefy 5-layer burrito up my butt, but good luck to that kid. I don't know if it was the real guy that posted it, but I saw a pretty funny video of a dude taking the beefy 5-layer out of the Taco Bell bag and throwing it in the freezer. Like, you know, the only way it's going to stay solid for you to get that thing up there. But hopefully they don't make the same mistake as Florida State. If you say something like that, you got to do it. You can't just say that you're going to eat dog shit and then run away. You just got to suck it up and eat the dog shit. I mean, you probably had worse put in your mouth multiple times in your life. It's not that bad, but yeah, very, very surprising week. Was spot on a couple of games and was completely off on the other ones. But I think that's going to be a bit of a recurring theme here in the Big 12. Luckily for this specific episode, our power rankings definitely got a jumble. I have a feeling your power rankings got a solid jumble after couple of very surprising games this weekend, but yeah, it looks like we're in for a grind as expected in the gas station convenience store conference.
This league's awesome, man. I can't wait for the 9 rounds of this fucking craziness. By the way, quick side note, we were crushed in our comments, or in the comment section by the Utah fans, calling us idiots that Cam Rising would not play. No, we're just idiots for picking Oklahoma State. Cam Rising was never going to play. That line swung for that reason. I honestly don't know how long Cam Rising's going to be out. I know they say he's cleared, but the fact that he's not back and that thing, I think, is going to linger longer than people are making it out to be. He got stitches. They're saying the velocity's not coming off the ball. It's not like he did, like Utah fans. He doesn't have the best track record of staying healthy. So we hope he comes back. We want Cam Rising back for Utah because he gives them the best chance to get 2 teams into this college football playoff, where Utah could be in at large bid if they lose in the conference championship, because we think Utah really is the only team that can go undefeated. I guess there's only 3 teams left, but we've said that from the beginning that Utah is the best team, top to bottom. But the big thing is the Cam Rising injury history, and I don't know why Utah fans push back on that. Like, it's a real thing. He missed the whole year last year. He's already missed 2.5 games now out of the 4 games that we've played. It's a big time issue. So hopefully he gets back. But they still are the best team. but they're much more beatable with Cam Rising out compared to with Cam Rising. Troy, you're an OK State fan. What was your takeaway from that Saturday game? That was a spotlight game. Utah, Oklahoma State with the two veteran coaches, Gundy, Whittingham. What was your takeaways from that game?
Well, if we were going to get called idiots, we should have been called idiots for thinking that the backup quarterback for Kyle Whittingham wouldn't have a very specific game plan to come in and still execute completely fine and keep everything rolling the way that we've seen Utah do a lot. We actually went the opposite way and took the bait of the quarterback being out, thinking, the line's moving a bunch. We'll play that. The hook, the extra half really gets us. But the biggest takeaway from that was that kind of looked like Oklahoma State and non-con last year, where they came out kind of lackadaisically. They tried to work themselves back into the game at the very end, but, not a Gundy week without changing quarterbacks for 3 drives and then going right back to Alan Bowman. If Garrett Rangel was good enough to play, he would have had a chance to start and probably hold that starting job at any point in time over the last 2 years, and he hasn't. Man, the difference in the two teams is just the sharpness of Utah and how prepared and well coached they are, and unafraid of really any scenario that they're put in. Whereas Oklahoma State came out, made a few mistakes right off the bat, and when you look back, it's easy to see, but they lost the game right off the bat. And Utah at that point in time, I think, was more worried about, we do have a backup quarterback in here. We don't need to overextend this and throw them the ball and get them back in the game. The Oklahoma State run defense is pretty bad.
Terrible. And we saw that in the Arkansas game too. That was alarming. That was alarming.
Yeah. Especially with what Taylon Green for Arkansas. I mean, I know he's not like the greatest quarterback or the worst quarterback, but he looked pretty all-star caliber against this Oklahoma State defense, and they were able to sneak out of that one. One of these was coming. I mean, this is always Colby's angle. There's a September game that Oklahoma State is going to, look like they're only 65% or so there at the game. And man, the Gundy bite, he did get pretty fired up on what was definitely a missed holding call that probably should have gotten them the ball back a little bit earlier, but they still put themselves in a position against a Utah team that you're probably not going to win. Zero out of 100 times is there going to be a team that completes that comeback, because Utah can just turn it around. And Isaac Wilson looked pretty good. To be completely honest, he's not going to be a horrible fill-in. The way that Utah wants to play the game, I don't know. It's not really going to scare me off of them too much. I just thought that Oklahoma State would get, a little bit more in their favor playing at home, and that just simply didn't happen.
No, they got their ass kicked. I mean, they honestly,
the fans were out of the stadium. The fans left the stadium at halftime.
22-19 doesn't even do that justice. They were down 2 scores the entire game. They got doubled up in yardage. They got almost tripled up in time of possession. Utah controlled that game, controlled the line of scrimmage. I don't know what the hell's wrong with Ollie Gordon. I don't know what's wrong with this offensive line with the way they were able to run the ball last year, but they do not look like the same unit. Bowman was terrible. Obviously, he got benched. I know he came back, and they tried to make it a game. But, Utah fans, you guys definitely deserve that win. But upside-wise, they got to get Cam Rising back, in my opinion, to run the table like they have set out to. So
definitely to be at that top level, they would need him back. But if they've got to work through even like 3 or 4 weeks without him, I think that would be very manageable.
Agree. And we see this with the backup quarterbacks all the time. Once you get more film on them, then you start seeing game plans
to fall apart.
Yeah. So they need to get Rising back sooner rather than later. But in the meantime, great culture win for them. Whittingham outcoached Gundy as much as I love Gundy. They had a better game plan and they executed. And I'll tell you what else. Doug Stanhope and Brandon Walsh and Sean Green host the newest podcast on SGPN. Get the Point every Thursday before the game. Doug, Brendan, and Sean give out their favorite plays, and talk a ton of shit. Doug and Brennan's are the professional comedians you may know from the Joe Rogan podcast, the Howard Stern Show, and Comedy Central. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts today. Troy, so we hit on the main game. Let's go over to the other Utah school. K-State got Provo'd. What the hell was that game? Kansas State dominated the first half, and then all of a sudden, with like 3 minutes left, something flipped, and all of a sudden, and you look up, and BYU's up 17-6. They have all the momentum headed into half. Then the avalanche that happened in the second half came. They run back that 91-yard punt. K-State got Provo'd. That's the best way to describe it. Hats off to Sataki. This BYU program, they're half a game away from their win total already. Troy, what was your takeaway from this beatdown?
Well, that was a pretty good showing for the fans in the Big 12 that haven't watched too much BYU football on what can happen when you're at Lavelle Edwards, when a couple of big plays get piled on top of one another, and then before you know it, all these sober Mormons are going fucking ballistic. Like,
it was crazy. They
got cougar-tailed to the max. I know I sent you guys the photo. My buddy was at the game and sent me the cougar-tailed display of, 300 of them waiting for you, nice iced and ready to eat. But that was just a quarterback play and game plan differential, don't you think? I mean, I'm sure you've seen this quite a bit watching Garrett Green grow up. That had to look like an early Garrett Green start for Avery Johnson. He kind of looked the same, happy feet in the pocket, not really ever getting settled. I mean, I know he's a runner and whatnot, but you can't go out there and go 15 of 28 for 130 yards and throw the ball to the other team 2 times. That's the biggest recipe for disaster anywhere. And I know I messaged you guys in the middle of the day when SMU was slapping TCU that maybe the takeaway was just that BYU is really good. And man, that defense is going to be scary. There's a chance the Holy War determines who wins this conference, which is fucking awesome.
It could. Yeah, stay tuned. We're doing our power rankings at the end. But, yeah, BYU took it to them. I mean, they dominated that second half. They got that momentum at the end of the first half, and boom, they did not let go of it because I felt like K-State was controlling the game midway through the second quarter. Then those back-to-back turnovers really flipped the game. Troy, I want to hit on a couple other games before we give out our power rankings. You're a Baylor fan. You've got to be shitting me, baby.
Sad.
You've got to be kidding me. Colorado with the luckiest win of the year. How you do not bat that down is beyond me. That's a crushing loss for Dave Aranda, man.
Yeah, and it's sad that it comes down to that mistake because I think that the game plan that they had throughout was pretty good. They were countering, they have some glaring weaknesses that Colorado probably should have taken advantage of more on offense. And I know they moved the ball well, but that was a game where Colorado could have been in the mid 40s or 50s if they could execute a little bit better on offense. Nearly pulled it off, but that could be the one. I mean, not batting that ball down could be a domino effect of Dave Aranda getting fired and then other teams realizing that, not a lot of these coaches have much of a leash now. And I would expect, private school money. What does Colby say? Blood money, private school blood money. I would think that the frustration is beginning to boil over pretty heavy in Waco. Not the most talented team, but this was definitely a game with how they played and getting Sawyer Robinson to kind of just stay within himself. They definitely should have won this game. Everybody knows that, but Colorado's staying alive. I mean,
and Troy, to your point, everybody remembers the Hail Mary and the fumble at the end where they fumble on the 1 yard line. Travis Hunter forced it out. But how about the kicker? The kicker misses like a 40 or 35-yard field goal to go up 10 with 2 minutes. That goes in, it's over. They blew a 14-point lead. This is just an epic collapse by Baylor. You give Colorado credit; they didn't quit. I still don't think they're very good, though. I mean, if you're struggling to beat Baylor at home, you're not a top half of the league team.
No, and of course, you can go look at the team sacks in the Big 12, and Baylor immediately jumps to tied for first after playing Colorado with 12 team sacks with a Utah team that has had, I mean, solid competition against Oklahoma State last week, but somebody's going to have to decide to block for Shedeur if they really want to win any games against slightly higher quality teams. Like, I don't think Baylor's a bad team, but they're not a good team either. And
the team you should control.
Yeah, this is a team where they should have been up 14-0, and Baylor should have been in the position where they were forced to, overextend and try to make a big comeback. But yeah, I mean, they basically just handed that game at the end to Colorado. I do think it was a pretty good job by Colorado to understand the opponent and not self-destruct completely, knowing that at any point in time, Baylor could pull a Baylor, and they did, and they left the door open just enough. I know we've talked about Shedeur. We think he's a good quarterback, even maybe a great quarterback. I don't know about too much Heisman hype. We'll see. He has to carry the team, so there's still a shot there.
Those teammates should get it.
Obviously, Travis is the best player. Their chemistry is awesome. Someone's got to find a way. If you're gonna draft Shedeur, you got to find a way to get Travis Hunter too. So I don't know. That's a game that I think that, like, if you had one team in front of the other in the power rankings, they just flip flop. You don't really move up or down or anything. That seems pretty accurate right now for Colorado to have their issues on the offensive line and be, on that level of Baylor when they should be at least a step above with the talent they have out there.
And from one miracle win to another miracle win, well, last week was complete misery for me and Rush. This week, battle back from a double-digit lead with 5 minutes. How about those Mountaineers staying alive? I don't know how good they are, to be honest. I have my concerns on the defensive side of the football, but you gotta tip your cap to Garrett Green, Neal Brown. They could be sitting here at 1-3 at the bye week and season over, but they found a way, fought, clawed, 1-0, tied for first.
Great time for a bye for them to sneak in, get an extra win here that I don't know if you can say they didn't deserve to win this game. I don't know if either team deserved to win this game. You got to see all of Garrett Green, the good, the bad, the absolutely ugly, everything in between. But yeah, puts it together. Nice drive down at the end of the game, throws a touchdown pass to win the game. But definitely scared of West Virginia's run defense too. That kind of sticks out like Oklahoma State, where a couple of these teams that can really pound the rock are going to be able to control the ball and have success. And then I think that's where Garrett Green gets himself into trouble, is when you go from, 14 possessions to you now only get 10 possessions, and your efficiency has to skyrocket when you're put in that position. Sometimes we've seen it. Sometimes we don't. He's not a bad quarterback, not the best quarterback in the conference, but probably should be playing a little bit better. I would think that the bye week, hopefully you see Garrett Green come out and look a little bit sharper than he has the first 4.
I think Garrett Green finally down the stretch got back to being Garrett Green, extending plays, making shit happen.
I was going to say, if Kansas had like Taylon Green's play from Arkansas right now instead of Jalen Daniels, you got to think they got at least one, if not maybe 2 more wins, right?
Kansas should be 4-0.
They should almost
last 3 games.
They should almost be 4-0, and they've got an awesome run game. It's just
they can't finish.
Jalen's been rusty, and it's 4 games in. They definitely can't finish. And they need better play from the quarterback. They need the quarterback to protect the ball a little bit more. And I know, what did he only throw 1 pick in this game? But
It was a horrible pick, though.
It was bad. Yeah.
I mean, Bradley was just standing right there, and he threw it right to him.
He just looks like he's panicking a little too much sometimes. And, coming back from an injury as a guy that likes to use your legs, I can understand that. But just not sharp going through any kind of progressions, not really seeing too much down the field. It's a good thing they have Devin Neal. I'll say that. I mean, Heshaw looked pretty good too, but don't know. That seems like that's very similar to the Baylor Colorado game, where I don't know if you can move anybody up or down too much in the power rankings based on that. That's just man, we grinded it out and got to 2-2, and we've got a bye week. Thank God. At least you don't have to hang them up at 1-3.
Hey, dude, like I said, man, I have a lot of questions on the defense, and I see Matt Dix in the chat. Where is it? About the run defense. I agree that the run defense isn't as bad as it was on Saturday, but they got fucking gashed on Saturday. They got 250 yards on the ground. And I know a lot of it was because of injuries, but they got gashed by Penn State as well in the second half of that game. They did a good job against Pitt, but for the most part, they're just defensively they have not been very good this year. But get healthy at the bye week. Hopefully, tighten up some of those things on the front seven and in the secondary, and then get Garrett Green to go back and playing like Garrett Green last year and like he did those last 5 minutes. But hey, 2-2 is a lot better than 1-3. That's all I'm going to say. Tied for first place, the Mountaineers. On the other side, Troy and I will give out our power rankings through 4 weeks now, and we will first talk about Underdog Fantasy, because you can sign up with the promo code TCESGPN to claim your special pick and first-time deposit offer up to $1,000 bonus in cash. Underdog Fantasy promo code TCESGPN. Troy, what you got cooked up, man?
Nothing.
Nothing right now.
We got baseball, but I don't have anything on the Underdog Live ready to roll.
Okay. Well, we'll do it Thursday. I know that they haven't trickled out the Underdog lines, but make sure you tune in.
Baron Morton screwed us this past weekend.
Yeah, fucking joke. But hey, we'll bounce back this week. Underdog Fantasy promo code TCESGPN. All right, Troy. I do have Rush's power rankings. Rush has surgery this week, so he will not be with us till next week. Let's go to get out of here, Chad G. Colorado is not number 2. Let's go.
Sadly, they're still pretty far down on mine.
Oh, dude, they suck. Hey, good for them that they found a way to win.
I'll say they're above Baylor.
Yeah, I guess, because they didn't bat down the freaking Hail Mary. Let's go with your bottom tier. Rush sent me his rankings, and he said, tier 4, we got a problem. He has Houston and TCU. Where did you go?
TCU and then Houston. I have TCU at the bottom. I know that Houston looked absolutely dog shit this past weekend. Fumbled the ball, threw the ball away, got outgained by 130 yards. But TCU is even more frustrating because their offense can actually move the ball pretty well.
They have like 500 yards again. What is
wrong
with this team?
It's gotta be because you're asking the offense to do everything that they, any little mistake is magnified because the defense isn't going to stop anyone from getting points off of turnovers. When you inevitably turn it over, you're asking your offense to score a touchdown on like 8 of the drives of the game, or else you're not in it. So, woof. Not looking great in Fort Worth. I saw somebody said that they can't be called TCU until they win a game. In the conference, so they're Texas Christian University now. You have to say the whole thing. You have to, you can't use the acronym.
I didn't put TCU. I only had one team in my bottom tier. I think Houston is by far the worst team, and I know we started buying into Willie Fritz, but man, they just don't have the guys. After the more and more I watch them, and I know they're going to be they're going to be pesky. They're going to be tough. They're going to be feisty. But Houston's just by far the 16th team for me. So yeah, that'll be my bottom tier. Rush then had his middle class. He had a crowded room here. He had West Virginia, Cincinnati, Kansas, Arizona State, Baylor, Texas Tech, and Cincinnati. So he had half of the league in his middle class.
The middle class league with a loaded middle class, which Kind of makes sense. Yeah, all of these teams are, I would say, are better than Houston and TCU in my mind, at least right now. But I'll say my middle class or my next tier up is Baylor, Colorado, Kansas, and Arizona. I don't know if I want to, probably West Virginia too, to be honest. Again, Kansas should be better, but Bill Parcells, you are what your record says you are, so which is not that good so far. I do think that we're going to have to find which week they're going to pull their upset on, because I think there's going to be a week where they don't turn the ball over as much and they sneak one out. Arizona, again, they still have room to move up in my mind, but their defense is going to be scary to see against some of these, I mean, for lack of better words, very deliberate and ball control offenses in the Big 12. You're going to get put in the same position as TCU, where you're asking Fafita to score touchdowns on 65 or 70% of your offensive drives, overextend a little too much, and then, there goes 8 more minutes if you turn the ball over, or there goes 5 more minutes. I think I am going to cut it off at West Virginia, because I do have Cincinnati above them, but I think Cincinnati might be better than West Virginia, like noticeably.
I think
it's close. It's close.
I actually think the Mountaineers are a little bit better than Cincinnati. But I mean, I don't think there's much separating the two. But in my middle class, at number 15, I got Kansas. At number 14, I got TCU because of this defense. This defense is a train wreck. At number 13, I got Arizona. I still have not seen anything from Arizona as much as I want them to be good. At number 12, I got Colorado. Congrats on finding a way to get that done. At number 12, I had Baylor. At number 11, I had Colorado. At number 10, I had Texas Tech. Then at number 9, I had Cincinnati. And number 8, I have West Virginia. So, I mean, it's all those teams are kind of just in the, hey, they could make a run if things got going in the right direction, but they all have clear flaws on their roster. And number 7, Cincinnati. So I guess I'll tip my cap to Cincinnati being 3-1 versus West Virginia being 2-2. So that's my middle class here. A lot of holes on these teams. Troy, next up, Rush had his tier 2, the upper middle class, BYU, UCF, K-State, and Oklahoma State. Who do you have in your upper middle class?
Well, I was going to say back to Matt Dix here. When I was talking about West Virginia and Cincinnati straight up head-to-head, like what I think would happen, I think Cincinnati would be able to pound the rock on West Virginia a little bit more than people expect, which is, like I said, it's still pretty close. But so far, West Virginia has played probably slightly better competition, especially with that Penn State game. So the statistics are, very skewed when you have the non-con differences. But back to the power rankings, my next class up is Cincinnati at 9, Arizona State at 8, Kansas State at 7. That was a very scary loss. Kansas State might struggle to hit their win total over. The quarterback play on the road, I mean, just the exact opposite of what people were expecting. And that's what happens when you try to judge a quarterback based on how good they are in a video game. You don't get to control them based on preloaded, attributes. He's got to actually play. Above K-State, I have Texas Tech at 6. And with the Utah loss, I don't really want to rule Oklahoma State out of being able to win the conference, because we still haven't really seen them play a good game yet. There's still something out there. There's a chance that they could click and maybe stick with a game plan that works. But again, kind of on that fringe now after playing a backup with a team that we're all expecting to really compete for the Big 12 title, And, they did dress it up. They got back in the game, but noticeable difference between the Utah football team and the Oklahoma State team. And I think that noticeable difference might even be worth a whole tier.
Okay. At number 7, I had Arizona State. I'm not going to penalize them from losing in Lubbock. I mean, they went to Texas State and they found a way to win. I was one off on my numbers. West Virginia was 9, Cincinnati was 8. So this is my upper middle class. I got Arizona State 7. I got Oklahoma State 6. I got UCF at number 5. I got K-State at number 4. I'm not going to overreact just to one game. Oklahoma State, I've seen some concerning things back-to-back games. And then at number 3, I got the BYU Cougars, who are still 4-0. And that's my upper middle class. And then Tier 1, I have 2 teams. How many do you have in Tier 1?
I guess I'm going to put all 5 up here in Tier 1, but it's really just Utah and Iowa State right now.
That's who I have. I have Utah and Iowa State a fringe above that next tier. I think defensively, both of those are the 2 best teams in the league.
Yeah, I don't hate that. Putting them 1 and 2 and saying that they're a slight step above. BYU definitely throwing their name in the hat for sure. UCF is my 4th team. And then like I said, I had Oklahoma State at 5. I think that's really the fringe spot between, the second tier behind our 1 and 2 right now. But with BYU's defense and UCF's rushing offense, those are 2 teams that could 100% throw big-time hurdles into some of these Big 12 teams. I did say right after the Utah-Oklahoma State game that this is now a one-bid league, and I'm pretty sure that pretty much iced it away. But with BYU kicking the shit out of Kansas State, unless we can get Iowa State to continue to roll, or maybe BYU or Utah's only loss is in the Holy War, and you can't really count it too hard against them because of rivalry purposes, I think we've narrowed ourselves down to a one-bid league in this past week alone.
Yeah, the K-State loss was not a good loss for the league. That's for damn sure. Because BYU's not running the table. As much as I love BYU, they're probably going to lose this week, upcoming. Just sneak peek. So it's BYU, Provo. It's a great home field. Troy, let's recap our 1 through 16 because I know we kind of bounced around a little bit on those power rankings, trying to base it off of rushes that he sent us. I'll let you go first. You can rank them 1 to 16.
All right. So in order, I went Utah at the top, Iowa State, BYU, UCF, Oklahoma State, Texas Tech, Kansas State, Arizona State, and that's the top 8. And then Cincinnati, West Virginia, Arizona, Kansas, Colorado, fuck you, Chad G, Baylor, Houston, and then TCU. Definitely trying to overreact a little bit just for the sake of jumbling it up. We got to get some new names up in here. This is the middle class conference. Got to give the guys credit when they win some good games. But I'll also say, still kind of silent down there about the bounce house in Orlando. There's still not a lot of hype quite yet.
Big one this week. There's a big one this week.
Sitting quiet. We'll see what happens.
Big one this week. We'll preview that here in a minute. For mine, I went Utah 1, Iowa State 2, BYU 3, K-State 4, UCF 5, Oklahoma State 6, Arizona State 7, Cincinnati 8, West Virginia 9, Texas Tech 10, Colorado 11, Baylor 12, Arizona 13, and then who do I have left? Oh, TCU 14, Kansas 15, and then Houston 16 to round out our power rankings. And then we will look ahead to week 5, week 2 in conference play here on the other side. But hey, we're brought to you by BetUS. BetUS is the best in the business. It's been around for more than 30 years. Easily deposit and with crypto and lightning fast payouts. Sneak peek. Well, I liked the Skins last night +7 and via BetUS. That was an easy winner. Shout out to the Skins. Hail to the Redskins. Support SGPN and get your access to another great book by signing up at BetUS. Use our link to sign up and get 125% deposit on your first 3 deposits by going over to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/BetUS. That is the sportsgamblingpodcast.com/BetUS. Promo code SGPN so they know we sent you BetUS, America's favorite sports book today. And we're also brought to you by Rhythm, SGPN's proud partner. Build your own model and customize it with how you want to, what you value, offense, defense. I love Rhythm. Rhythm had a hell of an NFL week once again and college football. So you're going to want to build your model. Early model, I think, looking at the Big 12 games, I think that they're going to like the Baylor Bears this weekend. So get on over there. Claim your 7-day free trial today by going over to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That is esportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM. All right, Troy. Week 2 in the league, week 5 overall. Here's a good one. Right off the bat, 2 teams that took it on the chin. Cowboys, Wildcats. Loser goes to 0-2. What's your thoughts on this game? In the Little Apple.
It feels like it could be a get-right spot for Kansas State's offense because of the rush defense that we've seen from Oklahoma State, especially with it being in the Little Apple. Straight up, I would have thought that this would have only been like a 1.5 or 2.5, maybe 3-point spread. But the fact that it's 5, I think it's telling you a little bit that Kansas State's going to be able to vanilla it up and just run the ball and not really ask Avery Johnson to do too much. That being said, if he does look up, there's going to be guys wide open. I mean, if Isaac Wilson can pick your team apart, you might have a little bit of an issue. But I don't know here. Gundy coming off of losses is usually a completely different character. So this one seems like we might get we might see a bit of a score off here.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this one. This one's going to be a tight one, in my opinion. We'll pick that on Thursday. I don't really have a lean right now. I think it's a prop. And I think the bookmakers basically said the same thing when they put it at 5. They didn't really make a stance here. If it was 3, they'd be telling you Oklahoma State spot, 7, K-State spot. Kind of threw it in no man's land there at 4.5, 5.5. So we'll pick that on Thursday when we find out a little bit more about the injury report. The stinkiest line of the week. BYU can't be beat. They're 3.5-point dogs at Baylor. You know me. I'm on Baylor. This will be I texted you guys just yesterday when it was 2.5. I said, I'm all over Baylor here. I am a little worried that they may have gotten their hearts broken and maybe they lay down for Randa, but BYU is just not the same team away from Provo, and they've already got 2 road wins. So traditionally, this is a BYU letdown spot. What's your early lean in the Mormons versus the Baptists here?
With the game plan that Baylor had against Colorado, I think with BYU not necessarily having the craziest offense, it might almost be more difficult because BYU's just going to try to man you up and say that they're better than you. And so far throughout the year, if you were to watch all the Baylor games and all the BYU games, this is wrong team favored, which is why the line is so stinky. But I don't buy into that home field advantage for the private school pussies.
Sick of.
I think BYU might get this done on the road outright.
All right. We might have a battle there on Thursday. Stay tuned.
Oh, we will have a battle.
How about this line? Holy shit. UCF's laying 16.5. Now
there's some 14.5s already.
I saw it open at 14.5, but I think it's been steamed up to 16.5.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I think a little bit. Shador got super banged up in that game too. So, I mean, if Shador can't go, I mean, we talked about Colorado's depth is terrible already. UCF's a different animal at the bounce house too. So 15.5. So it did come down a point after going up 16.5. Usually those lines, when they're that big, are telling what kind of game we're going to get run to. Colorado might get run the fuck off the field on Saturday.
Yeah, legitimately, literally ran off the field. I don't know if Colorado's got it in them to eat RJ Harvey getting, possibly 30 carries. I think he, between him and KJ, that's the scary part about UCF is that we're only 4 games deep. And they already kind of have figured out their identity of we're going to power it down your throat and just deal with what happens afterwards. And if we have to make adjustments, we'll try, but not really. This could be an ugly one. I think this could be an ugly one.
This is ugly right here. Battle of two teams combined, 5 straight losses. TCU getting bad vibes coming from there. I guess Kansas too. But I think this has got to be a get-right spot for Kansas. You, Troy, at Arrowhead.
The TCU offense should be able to move the ball, so that makes it a little scary. But I think Kansas can limit their possessions with Devin Neal and Hishaw. Again, they haven't had an issue running the football. Maybe you just tell Jalen, try to win a game with 0 passes. Let's throw it back like 120 years and don't even attempt a forward pass. And maybe you do a few, laterals, double reverses and stuff like that, but nothing forward. Tell Jalen to just tuck it and run. But yeah, I think you've got a chance here for Kansas against an opponent that has showed. I mean, Abilene Christian is scary, but you got to. Oh, that was Tech. You're right. You've still got an opponent that has showed when they have to close out games, the only way they can do it is by passing the ball, and incomplete passes keep other teams in games. So this seems like a bad matchup for TCU. I think Kansas might be able to hold on to the ball.
Watch out, Iowa State. Careful with this game. Careful.
Is this a classic Willie Fritz spot?
Yeah, and Matt Campbell traditionally has not been a good big favorite. So careful. This could be a juicy dog on Saturday.
I think what we saw, because that's why I laid the points with them this past week, and everybody was all like, 21 and a half with Iowa State. You don't really lay that many points, blah, 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 blah. They look like they have a pretty competent offense. I mean, not that you can take a bunch away from Arkansas State other than they should come out and blow the shit out of them, and they did. And I don't know. Things feel a little different in Ames. With them getting that Cyhawk, everything changed for their team and all the guys thinking, the outlook is now, holy shit, college football playoff is now in play. Holy shit, even if we lose a game or two, and it comes down to Iowa versus Iowa State for who gets that spot, we've seen the game. We know who's better. I don't think I'm going to be afraid to lay it, to be honest. We'll see what it is on Thursday, but I don't know. Willie Fritz moneymaker might be on a year delay.
I think you're walking into a trap if you take the Cyclones. The Natty, this is a good game, man. These two teams are playing good football right now. The Natty coming off 34-0 win. All of a sudden, Texas Tech is moving the ball up and down with Taj Brooks. Texas Tech, I did not rank him as high in the power rankings because they have not done anything on the road. But, hey, at home, they've been great. Arizona State and North Texas, it's a big game in Lubbock. Big game in Lubbock.
This is maybe two of the most balanced teams that we have offensively in this conference. Not necessarily too pass happy or run happy. I mean, I know Cincinnati likes to pound the rock, but Sorsby's been pretty good in the spots where they've asked them to pick up some third downs and make some throws. Again, I think this is one of those West Texas weird games. You got to take into account that it's in Lubbock for sure.
Yeah. And
it seems like a Cincinnati move to just lay a fucking egg after that pretty good win too, right?
Usually teams that overperform the spread by 30-plus points, it's a fade the next week. AKB
Close your eyes special.
Yes. I'll tell you what, man. I think this is going to be a sneaky good game. I think Arizona comes out of the bye week with a little different pep in their step, and I think they have a different energy level here. And I think in Fafita, McMillan, they've seen this Utah defense before. I think this is going to be a tight game between two newcomers.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a tight game. Kind of has been a tight game in the Pac-12. I was just thinking there for a second. There's a chance that the Pac-12 breaking up actually makes them stronger if they ever get back together after they send 4 collective teams to the first 12-team playoff, right?
That'd be great.
11.5 might be a little too big. This might be one that you might want to get on before it gets bet down. I know Arizona is just not that good, and the game is in Rice-Eccles, but like, this is absolutely not a money line play on Arizona ever because it's in Rice-Eccles. But at 11.5, with us seeing Utah being okay with I know that they didn't want to give up the second touchdown to Oklahoma State, but they were pretty conservative giving up that first one in the attempted comeback. This could also be just a fucking slap to the face, and you realize that Arizona is just not that great, right?
I think they
the chances there that Utah could just smoke them.
Oh, of course. But I also think they got slapped at K-State before the bye week. They've been sitting on that for 10 plus days now. I think you get Arizona's best shot here.
But getting slapped by K-State might be not as we thought. It wasn't a bad loss at first. Now it's.
I'm not overreacting.
A little iffy.
That's a hard place to win on a Friday night.
Oh, for sure.
So, anyway, that's our slate. 7 games, 2 teams on bye. Who is on bye? West Virginia and who's the other one on bye this week? Is it Arizona State? Arizona State's on bye.
Yeah, no Sun Devils.
So no Sun Devils, no Mountaineers, which means it'll be stress-free for me. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this weekend. Finally, no more non-con games. Can't wait. Can't freaking wait for this. Troy, before we get up on out of here, what you got going on?
Not much. A nice rain-soaked 66 this morning. Only played the 6,300-yard tees, so it was a bit easy. I love when greens are ultra slow and you can just hammer the ball right at the hole. Makes everything a little bit easier, but not much going on. Last 2 home series for the Nats. They need 1 win to get to 69. It's the only thing that I asked for this year was let us celebrate win number 69, the nicest win of them all. Hopefully it's against the Phillies. I would think that with them locking up the division, they might not put the greatest lineup out for the last 3 games against the Nats. So maybe we can get a couple of wins here for the Nats at the end of the year and feel good about everything else outside of CJ Abrams just wanting to get drunk and gamble like the rest of us. And I thought this was America, and they're going to send him down for that? Come on.
That'll do it, man. I can't wait for Thursday. We'll be back Thursday to preview week number 5. He's at Troy Chewning. I'm at Moneyline_Mac. We are the Big 12 College Experience. See everybody on Thursday. College basketball experience later tonight. College football experience later tonight. Subscribe to all the channels. Tell a friend. Tell your friends. Help us help you. And we are out of here.